Hello and welcome. I'm back in Japan and today I talk about 10 things to think about when you're following your husband abroad. Things I experienced myself. Of course, everybody has his own experience and this is just my experience and my opinion. And I like to share this with you. I'm living abroad since 1997. In total 4 different countries. I moved now to Japan 3 times. This is now the 3rd time in Japan. When I first moved abroad, we moved to Singapore and we had a local package, or we had a local contract. You can't even call it package. It was just a simple local contract. I wish someone would have told me some things about Singapore at that time which I didn't know, and I had to find out basically the hard way. And on a lot of other things you couldn't even find online, or nobody really talked about it. And the reason why I do this video is there are groups on the internet, like on maybe Facebook, and in these groups over and over they ask the same question: where I can find work, how is the visa working, and where I can get German bread or something like this. But nobody actually asks the real question which affects your life once you moved abroad. And you are usually not moving abroad for 1 year or 2 years. Very often you end up to 4 to 5 years. But before I start, there are a lot of professional sites you can find these days on the internet, and they're talking about Expat Life. And of course there's the Expat Life. There is, I always call them the Glücksritter. They are just going abroad with a visa, working holiday, and just happy that they work for 1 year. And then you have the intercultural marriages. But I just want to talk about a normal couple which is living in any country and moving abroad under a local contract or under an expat package. This means your husband comes home one day and says, "Hey, I got an offer, I can work abroad." And this basically happened with me. And of course I was like, yes, I want to do it. But there are things you have to really think about it. So after 20 years abroad, I can tell you the first thing. And this is, I give you 10 tips. So the first thing, before leaving, get a partner agreement. Why? Get a partner agreement in case you get divorced. Yes, this happened to me. Yes, you heard right. I don't want to bore you with statistics, but we all know marriages can break down. Going abroad is especially difficult. No matter how great you start with a luxury home and maybe 1 to 2 cars, a maid, and the greatest package of all as expat, but it happens. Maybe you worked in your home country and suddenly you don't work. And maybe your husband is traveling a lot abroad and you are sitting in the foreign country, and maybe you're just unhappy, and in the evening you complain to your husband, which is completely normal, but after a few weeks he will get tired of it. So everybody gets tired of it if someone comes home and there's only complain. Yeah, what I mean by that, get an agreement. In case you get divorced, I mean, maybe you have a house or you have an apartment, whatsoever. You should make clear before, And what I think it's a great idea, if one of either you or your partner has a girlfriend or a boyfriend, so there should be some agreement for this. So if he gets a girlfriend basically, so he can, maybe has to pay you extra, I don't know. So to make it more and more difficult for him to get out of the marriage, because it's just the easier way than solving problems. And this happens quite often. So go to a lawyer, come up with ideas to make this contract, and you're still in love, and you're both in your home country, and you both decided to go abroad. So this is actually not a big thing. You're both committed to each other, and you actually don't really know how is it once you live abroad. So I think this is a really, really smart thing to do. I think a lot of marriages wouldn't break down abroad if this is panned out. It's not only the man, it's also the woman. And something where you both really say, oh, wait a minute, this might be better, we have to solve the problems instead of just running from them. It's really difficult because in Singapore I didn't like the food in the beginning, and I only ate fishbowl soup the first year. Well, I'm not a complainer. I was still sticking to it. We rented a room, a master bedroom in a Malay family. But to be honest, maybe I should have complained, because it was unbearable for me at that time. I got divorced in Singapore, and in Singapore, this is my experience, and this doesn't mean every girl in Singapore is like this, but this is just my experience. The girls were all expats, and also the problems within the marriage, once they escalate because you are unhappy and you only complain about this and that, and at the end of the long working day, your hubby might have problems at work as well. So it's very hard for a marriage, especially when you are maybe only 1 or 2 years married. So yes, get an agreement. I can tell you the temptations are there, and they are considerable. It is what it is. At the end of the video I can tell you what surprised me the most in Singapore, and it's still, when I tell it people, it still shocks them a lot, because the culture is just so different. Okay, so the second point is retirement. So if you follow your husband abroad, usually, so in Germany we have a retirement plan, with a public one, with the government. And once you are not working or not registered in Germany, you don't pay in. And this you will lose out at once you retire, and you get less money. Well, there are other countries and they have other plans, but you have to ask your husband, basically, what if I cannot work in the new country? What should I do with my retirement? Will you pay for my retirement during this time? Maybe for a retirement plan or for savings or whatsoever. But something you can hold on. Not that you get divorced, like me, and, well, in my case I had to give half of my retirement money to my ex-husband, but in this case you would get half of it. But still, is this enough? You have to really think about it. So, well, this is the case in Germany. I don't know how it is in US. But if you don't work, you need savings for your retirement. This is very clear. The third thing, do you want kids? Usually it's a good time to get kids once you're abroad, but the problem is, do you want to get your child in a foreign hospital? This was the scariest thing for me of all, that I had to give birth in Singapore. I mean, it turned out great, it was super, everything was really fantastic, but still, it's really frightening when you are first time abroad and you get pregnant and have to give birth in a foreign country. In Singapore, for example, they all speak English. But English is for me my second language. And at that time, due date or labor, I had no idea about this vocabulary. So yeah, this was a big thing. And what you should think also, it's not only the hospital. So once you're abroad, you will raise a kid abroad. And with that, do they have kindergarten in English? Most of the time they have. Do they have schools from your country, like the German school or the American school or the British or whatever they have? So you have to think about that. And in this case, in Germany, for example, if you have a local contract in the country, your Erziehungsjahre will be not considered with your retirement plan, which is different when your husband was sent from Germany to that country. Then it is okay, it will be considered on your retirement years. So I don't know where you live, maybe you live in Sweden or the United States, and every country has a different approach to this, so you have to check on that, definitely. As a woman, this is very, very important, that you think about retirement and what happens if you divorce, and if you want your kids. Because here comes the next thing, this is tip number 4, health insurance. Most of the time you have health insurance, but in Singapore you have to pay for pregnancies separately. At my time it was around 12 to 20,000 Singapore dollars. So you have to ask your company, are they paying for that, or will you pay it from your own pocket? So number 5, what happens if you can't find work abroad? Is your partner okay with it? Are you okay with it? Will your partner support you during that time? Today, a lot of couples have separate accounts. The school for kids, will the company, this is number 6, school for kids, will the company pay for the school? Very important. For example, the German school, oh God, how much was it? I think we paid with down payment and the entrance fee, maybe 3 million or 2.6 million yen in a year, which is considerably. This is, I don't know how much euro, just type it in. Number 7, clubs. Do you have the money to join clubs or foreign clubs abroad? Does the company pay for it? At the first time when somebody told me this, I thought, I was still in this mood, oh, I'm going abroad, I want to experience the culture, the people, and the whole shebang. But after a while, you really need to mix around with your own folks, because they are just like you. For me as a German, we are loud, we laugh loud, which is different to Japan, and we make easily friends, we talk openly. Whereby here it's the small talk about the weather, the daily small talk is weather, and it's hot or cold basically, and that's it. So I usually don't have any deeper conversation. So for me it would be great if there would be a German club here, but of course not, because Germans are not mixing around abroad with their own peers. Well, but there are other clubs, like the American club here in Japan. And in Singapore, I think there was from every country a club. I thought that was quite cool. So number 8, if he has a girlfriend, what then? You better think about it before. Not that I say every guy has a girlfriend, no. But it happens. And you maybe be one of them. Number 9, your family back in your country. That's a big one, actually. How many tickets or flight homes are you getting? Every time you go home, it costs a lot of money. Okay, if you're now from Indonesia and you're going to Singapore, no, maybe not. But if you're from Germany and going home from Singapore to Germany, it's considerable. Japan the same, 10 to 12 hours flight. So the flight, we just came back, I think we paid 160,000 yen for one flight with ANA. Then rental car, hotel. Maybe you can sleep at your parents' house, maybe not. Maybe your parents get old. Maybe they get sick, you have to go. And then the next time your sister gets married, the ticket is already used, so do you have the money? This is really a big thing. Maybe not when you're young, but when you get older, it is important. So, and the last tip is get training about the culture. I read at that time travel guides about Singapore, and what strikes me until today, so there is really until today. I mean, I lived close to Frankfurt when we moved to Singapore. And Frankfurt was a special place at that time. Dorian Gray and all this, we went to different things. But I think at that time when we moved, it was already closed. Yeah, anyway. You have to read more than one book. And if you can get culture training, definitely sign up. Also with the language. And they said Singapore is conservative, and I do not feel that this was the case at all. Yes, they are one part of Singapore conservative, but if this might be the couple areas, but the younger generation or the single life, not at all. It is here in Japan very conservative. But Singapore, I was not prepared for that. You go into the bank, they have see-through tops in the bank. So it's not like Germany, you go in a bank, white blouse and black trousers or skirt. No. It is a different approach to business, which I didn't like, because there was a lack of to be professional. At that time I wasn't very conservative, maybe today, maybe I am, but at that time I wasn't. I was very open-minded. This brings sex into business. This was something which I haven't experienced before. Yeah. So coming back to my first point, I want to talk about Singapore and how business is done. So what happened is, everybody knows about karaoke, and in Singapore, sometimes you go for business, you go with business partner to karaoke, and if they want to have business, it could be they will try to put a hostess beside you. So, and now here, what I heard, there are differences. So some say you can get sex, some say you can't. I'm pretty sure you can get sex. So what I want to say with this karaoke, if this is business related, your husband can't get out of it easily. Or the first time he's not even prepared for it. And there the things start where it gets difficult. And even if he comes home and he tells you, hey, this and this happened, you're outraged. Absolutely. There is no way that any girl can touch your husband's leg or whatsoever. And the next time you know he's going, you get jealous. That's not even jealousy, you get mad because who they think they are that they can start in this way. And no, it's not going to happen, absolutely not. So this is where you basically start to try to find a way out of this. Not necessarily your marriage, but out of the country, definitely. And nobody told me at that time about karaoke. It's a big thing. Until today, I sometimes discuss this with friends, and especially the men, they say, no, it's not true. But I heard also different things. And as it happened, my sister, she's a stewardess, we both met one evening when she came to Singapore. And she met some guys on the plane, and they took us into some of these karaoke organizations. And this guy, I don't know who he was, I have no idea his name, nothing. But we had at least 6 or 7 girls around us. And there was a mama son. And she thought we were also bored girls. And what happened is she wanted that he get more girls from her shop or whatever it is, because he must be rich. And so we had to get more girls, and they were singing karaoke, and then we were driving to a discotheque at that night. The whole shopping. But it was very, very clear what was going on. So yeah. So we were not only at one place. These girls moved with us to different places. And a few girls, I think, were also friends. So it was a wild night. But there are a lot of temptations. Therefore, I think, as a woman, it's a good thing to think about, let's go through it. Have an agreement with your partner in case you get a divorce. No? Think about retirement. Do you want kids? Think about your health insurance. What happens if you can't find work abroad? Does the company pays for school or kindergarten? Clubs? Social clubs? What happens if he has a girlfriend? What will you do? And your family back in your country, how often can you visit them? Number 9. And the last thing is to consider cultural training and get an honest person there, because the travel guide and the YouTube videos don't tell you everything. So that's it for today, and if you want me to talk more about my experience abroad, let me know. I lived in Dubai, in Singapore, and in New Zealand in Christchurch, and of course here in Japan. And I'm originally from Germany, so I don't know. If you have any question, ask me. And have a nice week ahead. And I see you next Thursday. Tschüss!